Hello, Pearl.
Hello, Dr. Mutoko. I'm back now. Apologies about that.
No, you don't have to apologize.
There was a network problem.
No, I understand. I understand. I'm so glad to have you.
Yes.
I'm so honored to have you. Let me quickly go through some chats that took place in your absence.
Okay.
So I was asking people to tell us about who they are, where they are watching us from, and why they joined. So we have Rodney Koyete. He says, I'm watching from South Africa, Limpopo province. We have Tumelo Ranau joining from home in Tlokweng, tech specialist, been practicing for 6 years now. We have Kaone Muhumutsi Siboneho. I'm watching from Bangkok, Thailand. Currently, I'm a 4th-year civil engineering student. Rodney says, I'm following Pearl on Facebook. Her success in agriculture inspires me a lot. I'm looking forward to learning from her. I'm interested in rabbit farming. And then Tumelo says, I'm here to get to have an understanding of the industry from a farmer's perspective. Hopefully this will help me serve them better, because Tumelo is a tax specialist. Tumelo is the one you found speaking a few minutes ago. Rodney says, yes, we would like to hear from you. Oh, okay. They were asking me to talk a bit about myself. So I told them that I'm passionate about business leadership, and I'm also passionate about entrepreneurship, empowering entrepreneurs so that they can create jobs, alleviate poverty, boost the economic development of the country. That excites me big time. And also I love inspiring business leaders, because when we develop the private sector, then we know the country is free. So Rodney says, yes, thank you. You are doing a wonderful job. I will definitely visit your YouTube channel, which is Dr. Wilbert R. Mutoko. All right. And then Kawane says, I'm inspired by Thailand's model of agriculture, in which I would like to bring the knowledge back home. And of course, the hour has come. Pail Runner is in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, Pail Kawane Ranna. Welcome, Pail.
Thank you so much.
It's such an honor to have you.
Yes, I'm honored. I'm honored. I'm actually happy to be on your channel and during this interview.
Thank you so much. Now, I know you. I can't say I know you everything, right?
Yes.
I know a bit about you, good stuff about you. I love the energy. I love what you are doing in the agriculture space. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. So somebody wants to know, who is Pail Runner?
Who is Pail Runner? I am a young woman who wears so many different hats. For starters, I am a mother of one beautiful daughter. I am a farmer. I am a livestock farmer, but soon venturing into horticulture. I am a well-rounded entrepreneur. So most people who are listening right now, I graduated with an honors degree in business enterprise, which Dr. Wilbert Mutoko taught me some of the modules. And I always talk about him a lot. He inspired me to be the entrepreneur that I am today. Majority of my career is in the agricultural space. And from farming as an entrepreneur, I soon developed into being an advocate for young farmers and women farmers in Botswana and Sub-Saharan Africa. That is when I pursued my educational background, and I attained my master's degree in agriculture and development in order to become a certified agricultural policy analyst. This was all because I wanted smallholder farmers to have a stake in contributing to their nation's economic development, as well as being full entrepreneurs in the farming sector, because we don't really find full-on entrepreneurs when we talk about farming. It's usually something that is part-time, or usually a retirement plan, or something that we're forced into due to unemployment. But I'm trying to paint a picture that there is wealth, there is meaning, and there is purpose in the agricultural sector as a farmer.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. Can you repeat that certified
Agricultural Policy Analyst.
Certified Agriculture Policy Analyst. Wow.
Yes.
I'm so proud of the work that you are doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So, Pearl, you know what? It's not always easy to get people to come to the show. And you are the first person coming to the show speaking specifically about agriculture. Although you have the liberty to talk about entrepreneurship and business leadership in any other way you like, but we are going to draw a lot of knowledge from you and the tips on how Botswana and Southern Africa, probably Africa, or probably the world, who knows, because this show is watched by people from all over. So looking at COVID-19, people are locked down in most countries. What sort of mindset do you think people should be having right now when it comes to entrepreneurship and business leadership? Should people be sleeping?
Not at all. There's no time to sleep. I don't remember the last time I had a proper good night rest during the COVID-19. I won't even lie. Yes. You're talking about entrepreneurship and everything that's happening around COVID-19 and the mindset. You know, the first thing people thought about when lockdown was being mentioned was, do I have enough food? Are my children gonna have a meal before they sleep? Am I gonna wake up to make money to have food on my table? And everything is all about food and, you know, hunger and food security. And you look back and say, but hang on, Africa in general as a continent has enough land to feed the entire world. But then we bring it back home and look at Botswana and be like, okay, almost every single household in Botswana, they have a piece of land. Whether it's land at the farm, whether it's land at the home village, but most surely we do have land in our backyards, most of us. So you saw that a lot of people were going into backyard farming. But apart from that, I believe if you look at the agricultural sector during COVID-19 now, the basics of business, when I was taught what is business, it is actually meeting a need, being able to identify an opportunity and creating wealth out of it or any economic activities and value from it. So COVID-19 was an opportunity for each and every single one of us, wherever you are, whether you're in Botswana, whether in South Africa, or you're in Singapore, to realize the importance of food sustainability for us. So Botswana has been a country that has the ability to feed itself, but we have been relying on other countries in terms of fresh produce importations. But now we look at the fact that even though Botswana has trying to be feeding itself, we are lagging behind in terms of the attitude that we carry. We look at farming as something that is a part-time or something that is a retirement plan or something that we are forced into. But I feel like the attitude we should be having now is, what resources do I have as a Botswana or anyone out there who's watching in order to contribute to the nation's food basket? Now is the right time to venture into farming, not as a hobby, but as a business. But it all starts with you analyzing the resources that you have available to you. Resources such as access to land, access to water, access to capital, or even access to markets. Most people believe in having huge pieces of land to farm, but then we've had successful projects in neighboring countries around the world where people are growing fresh organic vegetables in their backyards and selling to the local market, which I believe that is where we should be shifting our mindset to in terms of developing urban agricultural projects. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So it's no time to sleep, eh?
No, not at all.
I tell people that since COVID-19 came in, the advice that I need to give myself is to find time to rest, because I don't have time to rest, you know, but it's important to rest. This is the time we need to work more than ever before.
True that. Very true.
Yeah. Yeah. So what sort of opportunities, Pearl, do you see coming up for people who are interested in crop farming, in livestock farming? Obviously, you know, when you think of agriculture, I love agriculture. But I have to be honest with you, I have not gone commercial with agriculture, right? But I'm planning to do so. Now, when you think of agriculture, I've been looking at different videos, like you're talking about space. There are people who do 1 acre farm, just an acre, and they do amazing things. And then somebody has got 4 hectares and they are thinking, man, I don't have land, you know, I really need land.
Exactly.
It's about you having a strategy in place. What do you really want to do? And do you really know what you are doing? So the difficult part, I think, for most people is when you think of agriculture, you are thinking of, should I do beef farming? Should I do goat farming, sheep farming? Even if it's goat, which goats? Is it dairy? Is it for meat? A crop farming, which crops? Is it maize? Is it sorghum? Is it, you know, all these things come into mind. And even when you're talking of beef, should I do free ranging, or should I do, you know, fattening? You having those pens and stuff like that.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this? What sort of opportunities can we say have arisen, particularly in Botswana, in Southern Africa, or Africa at large?
Yeah. Well, to start off with, when you look at farming and want to get into farming, as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to analyze the production cycle of whatever you're trying to get into. I'll give you an example. To start beef farming, you'll be able to probably make a profit after a whole 36 months or 24 months. But then when you look at what is happening now, we're talking about COVID-19 and beyond. In order for you to want to penetrate the market, think of something that has one of the shortest production cycles. Because when you look at the fresh produce market, the horticulture sector, we do have farmers who are farming potatoes, tomatoes, and carrots, but then there's specific vegetables that can take up to 30 days to produce, 42 days to produce. And now, because we are actually in, it's the winter season, there are certain crops which are suitable for certain seasons, such as winter, autumn, spring, and summer, and so on and so forth. I'm one person who likes to get into supermarkets a lot. I will go from your Pick n Pay to Choppies and Woolworths, and as I'm going in aisle by aisle, I try and observe what types of vegetables are there in the market. This is very important because before you get into farming, you need to know what is needed, not what is wanted. I may want to grow mushrooms, Dr. Mutoko, but then when I look at the Botswana market in terms of consumptions of mushrooms, it might not be as much. So you need to be able to identify and thoroughly do a market research of the products that are in demand. So one of the things that I usually love to do is I look at, okay, fine, if there's a demand for tomatoes, who's growing tomatoes around me? Those are your competitors. So mostly you find that even if I see that Dr. Mutoko is doing very well in tomato production, I want to get into tomato production. But then I don't understand other tomato farmers in the industry. And then you might think, okay, because everyone else is doing tomatoes, why don't I do another vegetable instead of that? So you don't necessarily have to get into farming and focus on a product which you see is doing really well. That is one of the mistakes that we do when we get into farming. I like to look at vegetables that are very scarce and vegetables that a lot of people don't want to do, or in some instances that people don't want to do in certain seasons. When I talk about seasons, you can look at the poultry market. There are a lot of people who are doing poultry for meat. But then when we approach the winter season, the harsh conditions make a lot of farmers to pull back and stop production. That is the perfect time for you as an aspiring farmer to get into poultry production when not a lot of people are getting inside. And mind you, entrepreneurship is about being innovative. It's about being creative. It's about taking risks. So where people see a risk, I look at it as a jackpot. That is how I identify opportunities in the agricultural sector. If people are moving away from this because it's too hard, as an entrepreneur, it should push you to say, you know, hang on, because people are moving away, maybe I can make value out of that particular sector. That is how I got into poultry farming as a small scale farmer many, many years ago. I saw a lot of people moving away from farming poultry meat during winter, and I was like, this is the perfect time, because during winter, obviously, because not a lot of farmers are producing that product, demand will increase. If demand increases, you getting into that sector, it means that it's going to be easy for customers to appreciate your product because not a lot of people are producing that similar product.
Interesting. You know what, Pail? I'm seeing a lot of things in you that I didn't know about. I mean, from the time we were together in the past, like during your varsity days. I see you as a risk taker, but not just a risk taker for the sake of it, but you take calculated risk. Informed.
Yes,
risk management. And I think that's very important for our community to understand. And then I see you as somebody who values knowledge. Very
Yes.
important. And also you are very observant. You value the issue of saying, I don't just do business for the sake of doing it. I don't just do business because others are doing it. Rather, you want to check, is there need for this particular thing? I'm just wondering how many people who say, I'm an aspiring farmer, whenever they get into choppies or into Pick and Pay, what do they see? Probably they just see what they are buying. They see the people around. They see the till operators. And I think there's a lot to learn from you to say, as an entrepreneur, your eyes must always be open. And remember, for our friends and family who just joined us live right now, feel free to send in some questions or comments in the chat box so that Pearl can be able to address some of your questions as we go. Pearl, we have one of our friends here who in the chat, he mentioned that he's interested in rabbit farming. He's watching us from South Africa, from Limpopo province, and that's Rodney, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm sure Rodney would want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on rabbit farming?
Rabbit farming is one of those niche products that you grow that are highly appreciated by the smaller market. In terms of it's a very small size of a market, but then people who do consume rabbit meat appreciate it. I have a friend who's actually one of the first rabbit farmers in Botswana to have his products on the shelf. And by doing that, he was actually taking a risk. And fortunately for him, it is well appreciated. One thing that I love about rabbit farming is you can easily do it at home, meaning you don't have to start worrying about land or water, since it's a very small sized animal that's water intake isn't as high as your small stock, your goats, or your cattle. One thing that is good about rabbits as well is the production cycle. It is very, very short. And even when it gives birth, the litter size, the number of babies given are so many. So that is why I love getting into farming, into projects which give me a good return on investment in a shorter period of time. Because when you look at your limited resources, you don't want to be investing so much into something that will give you profit after so long. So that is one of the problems. I think that is why I never really wanted to get into beef production. I don't have any problem against it, but I feel it needs a lot of capital investment. But rabbit farming is one of those projects that any aspiring farmer can begin with, even if you use your allowance, whether you're a tertiary student or even if you are working for a very minimum wage. It's something you can start with, even with one rabbit, one male, one female. That is very good. Rabbit farming is one of the projects which I would say someone should start with if they have extremely limited resources. And the good thing about it, even if you do it at home, you can easily monitor your project. So whether you're a full-time worker or you have another job somewhere else, every day you go back home or you leave home, you have to monitor your project. So I would advise, if you do want to start farming and you don't have any idea what to do, you can start with rabbit farming and learn. And hopefully from learning from your mistakes, it can grow into something very big. And one other thing is rabbit farming is one of the sectors that are linked with the textile and fashion industry. There's a lot of demand for rabbit fur, rabbit hair, even though there are people who are against animal cruelty. That is something that someone can venture into by creating other value chains. So you don't necessarily have to breed rabbits for the meat. You can also breed rabbits for their skin hides because they have so much value as compared to other skin hides.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much. One area that somebody will be thinking about is pig farming. We have had quite a bit of research on pig farming, and we know that the demand for pork and stuff like that in Botswana is quite high, and we have been importing a lot. What would you say about pig farming?
Pig farming, I give it a 200%. Over 10 years ago, when I began farming, I started with pig farming with my mom. That is where I drew my love for business. I didn't love business until I saw my mom's pig project. She started with 7 piglets, and in less than 2 years, she already had over 200 pigs. And that is an amazing growth and scale up project. If you want to easily scale your agribusiness projects, pig farming is one of the top, if not the highest. If you look at pig farming, it's not very costly to start pig farming. One, pig feeds are not as hardly, how can I use this word? You can easily source out pig feeds as compared to other animals, because pigs are omnivores, meaning they eat both plant and animal products. So pigs can consume even your kitchen waste, that is food that you've left behind. They can eat as well as agricultural waste. That means you can go to neighboring farms after they've harvested their watermelons, their tomatoes, their butternuts, and you take their leaves or their waste that they want to throw away, and you feed the pigs. It is highly nutritious and has high protein, which is very much needed for development of the meat and the body of the pig. When you look at pig farming as well, it's one of those animals that also give birth to multiple babies at once. You can find that one female can give you between 15 to 20 babies, and the gestation period, the time it takes for a pig to get pregnant, is 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, which means you can easily calculate how and when you're going to make money. And it's also good if you're really trying to scale up, meaning if you're trying to boost your production scale to another level, in less than 12 months, you would have been able to reach your targets. So pig farming is very good. But one of the mistakes that we do in farming is we can say, because we're importing so much of this, it means that we should get into it. And then you look at the structure of the market in Botswana. Sometimes the products that we import, it is because of the high regulations and standards of producing that product. A typical example is for poultry meat. We have a high demand in poultry meat, but then most farmers in Botswana cannot get that poultry meat into supermarket shelves. That is because there are very high regulations in terms of food safety and health when you're in the food production sector. You might have 2,000, 10,000 birds at the farm, and you feel because you are producing that to get your products onto the shelves of any supermarket out there, first you need to have an abattoir on your farm. That already is a cost to a small scale farmer. You also need to own have and own your own cold trucks, because you are trying to have your own value chain from getting your product from the farm to the supermarket without outsourcing any of those services, and they need to be in the farm to ensure health and safety regulations. As farmers, we need to understand that as much as we're trying to feed the nation, we need to ensure that the food that we're producing is of high standard, high quality, and it is very safe, which is why you find some local stores such as Woolworths value products which are organic, which you have not used any pesticides, insecticides, or any chemicals, because they value the consumer at the end of the day. So when we are producing fresh produce on the farm, think of the person who's going to be eating that product. Would they want to eat what you're growing? Because you find that there are certain illegal practices in other countries where people were injecting animals to grow faster, or using certain genetically modified instruments to increase the production, increase the life cycle of a product to get on the shelf quicker. So sometimes before we do get into a project, we should be able to research more on the underlying legalities of growing that product. If you want your product to be on the shelf, you need to ensure that you have certain measures put into place for you to be that farmer who is very, very much well connected with the policies and regulations around the product you're producing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because, you know, sometimes we just feel like, you know what, right now, especially now, COVID-19 has come. We are limiting things coming through the borders. This is a big opportunity. We rush in. After all, we are locals, so it's our chance. And then we don't realize that, how about the quality, the standard? Are we meeting the standard? If we are not meeting the standard, you will be having 10,000 birds and no market. That can be very painful.
That is so true. That is so true. And that is what we've seen quite a lot. You'll see that apart from the whole COVID-19, what's happening, a lot of people rush into farming. After the produce is ready, they've harvested it, they start selling, they realize there is no market. when we say there is a market, we're just saying it in the literal sense. But when you really do understand what is market access, you get to understand that that is why we have a lot of farmers who are trying to get their food on the shelves, but they can't, because they don't want to go through the processes of getting the product into the market.
Okay, you know what? I'm getting you very well now. Isn't it? I'm an author. I've written about 4 books. And
yes,
most of the time you realize that when somebody publishes a book, it's not everybody's book that is accepted in the bookshops. So like right now, we have so many people who are writing books.
True.
Yes, you can have a book and sell it to your neighbor and sell it to your mother or your father or donate it. But for you to be able to take it to the bookshops, it goes through so much analysis. It's only like my first book, it took 3 months at Exclusive Books in South Africa because they wanted to see, they doubted, self-help books, no. But the second book, in 1 week, it was approved. The third book, so like that, people tend to write books and they want to publish through my company because themselves alone, they can't do it. So I'm getting it when you are talking about agriculture. And this is something I had never thought of it in agriculture. I'm thinking, man, you just get there, you have your goats and you sell them. Rodney is saying, hi, Pearl, thanks for sharing valuable information.
Thank you so much, Rodney, for tuning in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pearl, you spoke about pig farming.
Yes.
Usually when you talk of pig farming, people are thinking of selling it to, you know, maybe Choppies or what is the other place there in Tlokwen? Is it?
Oh, Sen Foods.
Sen Foods, yes. So I'm thinking the same thing applies. You don't just say, I've got my pig meat here. Everybody take it. People need to be sure. I think it would actually be wiser before I start doing pig farming to go and talk to Choppies and say, when you take pig meat, what are the standards? Probably I talk to Sen Foods and ask any other relevant authorities before I start, so that I don't have the pigs and I don't know where to sell. Now you are troubling your neighbors to say, can't you get 1 pig, please?
Yeah, and you know, touching on to that as well, I'll give you an example about understanding your market. When I got into poultry farming a couple of years ago, we had a supermarket which was consuming which needed a lot of poultry meat from farmers. And before I actually scaled up to be able to sell to them, I called them and asked them, how much do you actually pay to buy from farmers? And to realize the price that they wanted to give me was so much lower than the price that individuals, families and friends and everyone that knows me was buying from me. So it's very important to also understand the price in which your consumer or your customer is willing to pay you. Because sometimes as farmers, we end up getting trapped as being price takers, and you don't make a profit or you don't even break even, which is why you get a lot of farmers complaining that they're not being fairly paid. Because before you get into any business, you need to be able to at least make some cash flow projections and understand, at least if I'm going to be selling to Dr. Mutoko, how much is Dr. Mutoko willing to give me? And is that something that I am willing to be satisfied with? So understanding your market is not just saying there is a need for it, but at what price is the market willing to pay me after I've gone through the hard labor of producing the product? So pricing is very important, because a lot of people confuse large-scale farmers with small-scale farmers. I was a very small-scale farmer in the poultry industry, but I was making a lot of money and I was very successful. But when I got to monitor and actually make, when I was researching from other large-scale poultry farmers, I realized they were making a loss. So it's very important that you understand the financial model of your business. This is a business, and if people can treat farming as a business, then a lot of us can actually reap the opportunities that are there from us, because the opportunities are endless. But the problem is, if you just take farming as, I'm going to farm this product and sell it. No, you need to be able to know what resources are there, how much it's going to cost you, at what price is even my customers willing to pay me. Even your competitors, you need to be able to know what are the market fluctuations of the prices in order for you to be able to be to be very competitive, because farming is very competitive if you look at the products that are currently being produced now in Botswana.
Awesome, awesome, Pearl. You see, you talk about creativity, you talk about innovativeness, you spoke about research. Do you know, Pearl, every seminar, every workshop I've ever addressed, when I ask people, how many of you love research? You will find 1 person out of 100. Most people don't like research. I've even seen it among my mentees. I remember one mentee came to me, Dr. Mutoko, I want to start business now. This is my plan, la, la, la. I'm saying, okay, fine. What's your market like? Have you researched? You see, you have started again. Everybody I meet, they say research, 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 research. While I'm busy researching, others are already making money. I say, hey, okay, go and make money. And he went away. After 6 months or so, he comes back. Actually, you know, now he's waking up because he has made a lot of mistakes that are very unwise. Guys, as much as we don't like research, there are a lot of things we don't like in life, but we still do them because it's important. Sometimes we eat what we don't like because it's healthy. Sometimes you go ahead, you do your exercises. It's painful. You don't like it, but you do it. I don't know where we are getting this whole thing that you must always do what you love. Yes, it's okay. The concept is okay, but it's not everything that is important that you love. Some things we don't love. Even medicine, even injections, we don't have to love them.
Yes.
We have to appreciate them and take them. So one other thing I found, Pearl, in pig farming from some of my mentees who are into pig farming, one thing I found is that if you don't feed your pigs with the proper food, you see, I liked when you mentioned that you can actually feed pigs with some nutritional foods that are not expensive, that can build, you know, the body of the pig. That understanding is very important. Because if you do not feed your pigs properly, you will find that maybe after 6 months, they are still very small and they are not market ready. Yeah. Even your neighbors will not want the meat from your pigs. So it's important for us to make sure we feed our pigs properly. They need proper and clean water. They need to be well taken care of. If we do that, then we are good. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. But you see where this is all going. It's going back to research, value for information. Kelvin James says, as an entrepreneur, how would you solve, let's see, I really value the chats that come from our participants. As an entrepreneur, how would you solve this problem? Most of our food is from South Africa. Most of our shops are South African franchises. How could you compete with those companies and suppliers? Considering our population is about 2 million plus, so it costs more to produce one product, whereas in South Africa, they produce more, which makes it cheaper to produce a product. How, as an entrepreneur, would you face this challenge to be innovative?
Yes. Can I answer that?
Yes, please.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the question. So this is the thing, farming, there is no right or wrong answer. It's all about being creative. And farming is all about using the resources that you have. If you see that your neighbor is operating at a large scale, you know, they have electricity and all of that, you need to also think, okay, fine. There are farmers who are now turning into using solar-powered farm operations. This is not even just about solar power. The reason why South Africans are importing their products, this is not even about pricing. If you could go to the Ministry of Trade, there are policies that protect you as a farmer. If you are able to produce and it is meeting the needs of the market, borders closed, meaning there are no products which can get into South Africa, meaning those policies are protecting you. Protectionism for importations. Yes, it's true, South Africa produces at a large scale, which makes that product much cheaper and competitive. But if you were to produce the same quality product as South Africa and it is expensive, we will consume your product. So those are the policies that protect farmers here in Botswana. But then you find that there are people who want to produce, I'll give an example with the potato. There was a time that we had a lot of potatoes from local farmers in Botswana, which forced borders to close. That was very unfair to the restaurants in Botswana because there is a particular potato which is grown for your fries, your French fries. So you also need to understand that as much as you want to compete with other countries, they are producing a product which we need. So it doesn't matter if you're producing a tomato that is good and is fairly priced. Is the tomato you're producing and the market that you want to sell to, is it what they want? So there's so many ways in which you can tackle overpowering products coming from South Africa. And I don't think there is any supermarket that would want a product from South Africa when it's here in Botswana, because getting a product closer is much fresher, even though it might be higher price than the South African price. You find that it will be longer on the shelf, which is good for the supermarket. So this goes back to negotiating. If you're an entrepreneur, you should be able to have negotiation skills against the person who's buying your product. You should be able to explain why they should buy your product. Simply because you grew a tomato and I want to buy a tomato from you doesn't mean that I'm gonna easily buy it from you as compared to someone in South Africa. You need to be able to clearly explain to your customers that my product is fresh, my product is longer shelf life, my product is, there's so many different ways that you can explain your product to a consumer. And because it's business, people are going to be fighting for that shelf to put their products on the shelf. So you also need to be competitive and throw away the mentality of always complaining, which is what we see with a lot of farmers. Instead of complaining, push yourself to be better and harder than people already in the market. Because I won't lie, there's a lot of people who are into farming, and once you start farming, you realize that the market is so saturated. But to be different as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to be creative. You need to be able to think outside the box and see how you can have your product be the winning product out there. So there are a lot of dynamics and a lot of factors that you should be able to consider when you get into farming. One, it's very competitive. Two, it's very high demanding, and it's very high demand, and it's a very demanding business activity because you are competing with people of the same product. That's why prices are always fluctuating. So it's very important as well to take the steps that I mentioned before of thoroughly researching your market, understanding your market, even understanding your customers themselves. I'll give you an example. When I was getting into poultry has a very stringent way of feeding. Every 2 weeks, you have to keep on changing your feed from starter, grower, and finisher, which makes your chicken very lean. But then I got to understand my market, that they wanted chicken which had a lot of fat, which meant that I needed to change the way I fed my chickens in order to be more appealing to them. So it's good that when you get into the market, go and talk to people who you're trying to sell to. Say, why do you like this product? Why do you appreciate this product? Because another example is when you look at broccoli. There are people who want to buy a big head of broccoli. There are people who appreciate the smaller type of broccoli. So that's why I say try and be different. As much as that, there's no country that does not import vegetables. That's one thing you should understand. Every country deals with importation and exporting. When you look at countries like Italy and Spain, they import every single day mangoes coming from Ghana, because Ghana is a very beautiful country that the temperatures are very much conducive to mangoes. So instead of complaining about importations, try and see how you can be one of the best in the market, because someone out there will buy your product. If there are retailers who appreciate the South African product, go to a retailer who really wants to support Botswana products, where it is easy to penetrate the market. So it's also just about exploring different consumers, different markets, different customers, and really deeply understanding what it is that they want, and going back to the farm to change the way you farm to meet that demand.
Hey, Pearl, I'm just enjoying this. One other thing I'm seeing from you, you emphasize the fact that be different. Be different.
Yes.
You see, I think it's not only in farming. I mean, look at, for example, catering. I just see somebody selling food alongside the road. I'm like, they are making money. Tomorrow, I'm starting mine. But you haven't asked it. Okay, you could have even asked those who are selling, how is business? Maybe they will tell you that, hey, I'm planning to stop. There's no money here. We are suffering. But when you just want to go and try and copy, and then you will be frustrated. So you try catering, from there you stop, you go to poultry, you try, you stop, because you don't have information. It's important for people to research. It's important for people to research and to be different, like you are saying. And I think it's very easy for, I normally say to people that before you enter into any new business or any new industry, it always looks very easy. Until you get in, that's when you start learning. So you shouldn't wait until you are in and things are very difficult and you are not ready for it, and then you stop, you start something new, and so on. So the idea of coming in and being different, I really, really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much.
Amazing stuff. There's another question that came in. This one is from Kawane Mokumutse Sebonejo. He says, how will Botswana's EU blacklisting affect agriculture?
Okay. So EU is one of the markets that we've been supplying our beef to, but then we have a recently changed policy, which is the privatization of how BMC will be working. I'm one person who's been advocating for different markets, and thank God, Botswana has been able to identify another market, which is in China. Now, China is a country with the highest population and highest consuming in terms of food consumption. So we shouldn't really worry much about EU. Even apart from EU and China, Africa on its own is a very huge market in terms of consuming our beef products. And I'd like to ask the person a question. Why should you think of EU when you have your own local market to supply your beef to? Because I feel we have been so much tied into the EU market that we forgot our own market here in Botswana. You can go to several villages and go to every single butchery and you find that there's no beef. When you ask them where's the beef, they're saying there are no cows out there that are ready for slaughtering. So I usually like to look at the beef sector and feel like it is very undervalued in terms of valuing local market and regional market, and then we focus on the EU market. Less than 30% of cattle farmers in Botswana are the ones who are supplying the EU market, which leaves you and I and everyone else who's watching, who are the 70% of the communal farmers of the beef sector, who cannot even get their products into the EU market. So we should be able to understand, is the EU market really that much valuable to us than our local and regional market? We have countries that can pay 3 or 4 or 5 times much more quicker and better than the EU market here in our own continent. So I'm one person who I'd say I'm really biased when it comes towards the EU market issues. I am not for the EU market. I've never been for the EU market, because if you look at the farmers, the majority of the farmers who are supplying the EU market, most of them are not even natives, but native Botswanas in our own country. So before we talk about the EU market itself, we need to understand the whole beef value chain. How many of Botswana beef farmers are actually having a piece of the pie in terms of the EU market? So that's one question I don't want. It's very much political and don't want to touch into it.
Thank you, Pearl. Thank you so much. I like the way you are answering these questions, and you know these questions are coming in and it's not something that we prepared for, and the way you are tackling them is so much amazing. There's something also I identified about you when you were speaking. You show that you have an international mind, or global mind, if I should say, because you are not one of those people who are, you know, crybabies, if I should say. I don't know, maybe I should run away from that word. You know, you're not one of those who is looking for somebody to blame. You're not looking for probably saying the government should have done this for us. I mean, to an extent where you are saying, look, there are some things that we need to import. That's just being realistic. Some things we need to import. So this whole thing of localization is great. We need it. But let's face the facts. we still need to import some things. And as an entrepreneur, stop crying and stand up and be different. Do your research. I love that.
Thank you so much.
Now, I'm going to let us deviate a little bit from entrepreneurship. We'll come back there. You see, talking of entrepreneurship, we can't talk entrepreneurship if we throw away business leadership.
True.
Yeah. So I'm sure you have some advice for business leaders. Right now, it's a very, very, very tough time. We have employers who employ 1,000 people, 500 people, 200 people, 20 people, whatever it is. As a business leader, what should business leaders be doing right now?
Right now, before anything else that a business leader should think about your team. Whether you're a one-man person or 2 or 3 team, it's very important to instill the culture of positive mindset, positive attitude to your teammates. And by saying that, I mean, everyone, obviously this COVID-19 has affected a lot of us emotionally, and emotionally going on to mentally, which means that we don't even have a state of mind where we are trying to beat COVID-19. I always try and say to most people that there is life after COVID-19. And sometimes, and entrepreneurship is the key to any problem that we face. That's why now we have a lot of people now deviating into social entrepreneurship. So wherever there is chaos, that is where a lot of entrepreneurs love. I won't lie. I thrive under circumstances such as COVID-19 because I'm more solution oriented. If I see a problem, I can't sleep. I am up all night trying to think of creating a solution around that. So instilling a mindset and a culture of positivity in the sense of cultivate your mind, renew your mind. Every day, read something small, read something large, talk to someone who's doing something different from what you're doing, and that alone can open your mindset to more opportunities. If you can be able to instill a culture of being optimistic, being positive during such times, it can help your team as a business leader. I work with a very small team, and my energy that I instill into them also infuses for them to be also optimistic. So as a business leader, it's very important that even though throughout all this chaos, take care of yourself mentally, because whatever energy you exude to people around you, that is your teammates, they can feed off it. Because if you are nervous and you keep away and shy away into a corner, even your teammates can end up getting lost, wondering what's happening, because they look up to you as a leader. So as a leader, it's very important to lead with courage, lead with a lot of wisdom, and lead with a happy and open mindset. Don't be too rigid. I know a lot of people are scared. They don't even know how they're going to be paying their employees tomorrow. But if you can be able to instill an attitude of courage, even though through all this mist, there will be light at the end of the tunnel for other employees who feel like we don't know what's going to happen to our job tomorrow. At the end of the day, you should be able to keep them positive and keep them on the move and try and do something different. I know that employers who are doing certain online tests for their employees to keep them busy, you know, that also helps. So come up with creative ways of how to feed positive energy out to people you are leading. Currently, right now, I'm leading over 200 young farmers in Botswana with a program I recently started in March. And after we launched it, we got into the COVID-19. And instead of wondering, what am I going to do with all of these 200 people, I started an online program for educating them. I think there's load shedding. Now my light is off. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, that's fine.
I'm just going to continue talking.
Yes,
so instead of being negative, always be positive. That is something that I try and tell people, that even though we're going through all of this, positivity is the best solution and attitude we can all adapt to right now.
Pearl, you are amazing. You know what? I'm seeing that there's so much in common between you and me.
Yes.
Because this time is the time I'm working even harder than ever before. You know, this is the time to be calling your clients, to have your phone ready all the time, respond to WhatsApps, you know, emails, call some of your clients. Even if you are not getting business out of them, give them hope. Get them excited that there is life after COVID-19. This is the time when you need to be more visible than ever before. This is the time, I mean, it's just amazing. It's the time that we need to touch lives more. For some of us who are also motivational speakers, this is the time I do more motivational speaking. COVID-19, I'm doing more videos than ever before. I do, you know, interviews to empower entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's amazing. And guess what? When you are always thinking like that, you now get opportunities that you did not even expect. Because like these days, I emphasize more on executive coaching and leadership consultants. So you find somebody who will say, look, I need your help. Okay, how can you help me? But you know, because of COVID-19, I'm like, no, we can do it on Zoom. We can do it online. I can help you online. What are you talking about? I can coach you online. I can consult for you online. You don't need to see me face to face. We are learning a lot of things from this COVID-19 era. And thank you so much for those ideas you have brought in. Quite a lot of questions coming from the participants, and I'm very excited. I'll be reading some of them shortly. Now, let's go back to entrepreneurship. Let's go back to agriculture. One of the things that I've seen, Pail, in agriculture, particularly among my mentees, is that if you do not manage your projects well, you will definitely fail. What do you have to say about that? For example, in piggery, if you don't have good management, you are finished. With the poultry, if you don't have good management, let me just be specific. In piggery, if you don't manage your pigs properly, you can have 2 or 3 piglets per time, while other people are having 22, 21, 23, 18 piglets. Poultry, you don't manage it properly, you will have a very high mortality rate. I mean, same applies to crop production. What are your thoughts? What do you want to advise entrepreneurs, upcoming entrepreneurs? We have people losing their jobs. We have graduates that have been looking for jobs, and all these people are going to become entrepreneurs one way or the other. What do you say about management?
Management is very important, and one of the most influential factors of management in farming is bookkeeping. Record keeping. So you should be able to know, especially when you look at the animal life sector. You need to be able to know when you vaccinated your animals, when your animals started mating, when is the expected due date, how many animals are giving birth on this and that. So you can look at goats, for example. If you've been keeping a female goat, which is giving you 1 baby in 1 year, or you know that the teats, there's no milk, why are you keeping it? That is a cost onto you. So management is all about managing your products. Remember, you need to take farming as a business. So even if you have your livestock, take them as products. And if you're spending so much money feeding, vaccinating, taking care of them, always traveling to the farm to go and take care of an animal which is not productive, you need to sell it and take it out immediately. It is the same with crop production. Crop production, when you look at the fact that I am producing 3 different crops, and maybe I'm producing tomatoes, potatoes, and cabbage, but then the yield of my cabbage is not enough because of some nutrition deficiency out there. Remove cabbage and put another crop which can be able to be in relation to the nutrients in the soil. So it's all about animal and crop science at the end of the day. This is why it's very important to employ an employee who has a background or a bit of understanding in farming. We like going for the cheaper labor, which gives us cheaper results. If you want good results in your farm business, you need to be able to invest in your people. I am one person who invests in my employees. Like right now, every time I buy myself a Farmer's Weekly magazine to read, when I finish it, I give it to my employee so that they can be at least on the same level of understanding of what I want. So you find that there are a lot of people that would never want to pay for their employees to go for training. If you don't have money to train them, you should train them yourself. Be able to go to the farm and help them. So you need to know that even though you are managing a successful project in farming, your employees play a pivotal role in order you make profit or not, because they are an asset. If you don't invest in them or you don't invest in yourself as well, your business is bound to fail. So there are many principles that need to be put into place when we're talking of farm management, because without them you cannot succeed. It's not as easy as putting a seed and expecting it to grow and lending into the market. So it's very important to understand a lot of fundamentals that go into management of the farm.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Pearl. You know what? You have touched on something that I was going to ask you, because people believe that if you're going to succeed in farming, you have to do it by yourself. You can't employ another person. And also, when people are hiring, they want to look for people whom they will give something little. They don't want to hire experts. They don't understand that agriculture is actually an industry. Why is it that when you go to offices, different industries, they hire the best? Now you come to agriculture, yourself, you don't train yourself, you don't read, you don't read magazines, you don't read books, you don't read research papers on agriculture, you don't have any agricultural course yourself, and you also hire people who don't know what they are doing, and you expect miracles. You pray and fast and hope that God will perform some miracle. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
So the quality of the people you hire and the quality of your mind as an entrepreneur is very key, and I agree with you.
Yes, it's very important.
Awesome. Right. So, Pearl, as we go towards the end of this interview, what are some of the major challenges? Okay, think about the challenges. You will talk about challenges, but I think before I forget, I want you to, you and I do not want to go political. We are business people. We are entrepreneurs. Politics and business, I don't believe in talking much about politics. I'm not a politician. But we can talk to national economics, international economics, and global economics. What do you think policymakers, for example, in Botswana, should do to, what sort of policies do you see as being needed right now going forward, so that we can make the playing, field smoother?
I would touch on the financial sector. We find that there is no financial institution right now available in Botswana which understands what it means to finance a farmer. So you find that even though there can be money available to fund a farmer, but then the people behind the financing themselves, they don't have an agricultural background. One of the countries that I love drawing reference from is South Africa. If you go to any financial institution that is funding farmers, that person has a background of an educational background in agriculture, whether they're an agricultural economist, or they studied agronomy, or they studied livestock. That's why you find that South Africa has successful farmers who have been funded. Most of our farmers who have been funded here in Botswana hardly get any mentoring which is meaningful from financial institutions, because they don't have the background to mentor a farmer. If a farmer goes to get money from Bank X, and Bank X doesn't know how to combat certain problems that a farmer is facing in order for a farmer to complete that yield and make a profit to pay back that loan, they won't even know where to go to. So it's very important that we start getting the right people who are certified and qualified experts to be approving certain financial loans for farmers, because you find that even before talking about the loans and the financial institutions, farmers need assistance in certain ways that are not being given. One example is access to water. A lot of farmers have land, but then most of them cannot afford to be drilling boreholes to be able to go and get funding. So before you even get funded, you need to be able to have an available water source. But without that available water source, it means you cannot get funding. So it's very important for us to come up with financial products which are meeting the needs and the demands for farmers, be re-evaluated and revamped to create blended finance. In order for you to finance a farmer, farmers need to be backed up by an extensive program of mentoring and capacity building, which is very important.
Wow. That's amazing, Pearl. That's amazing. So what are some of the challenges that you mainly see in the agricultural sector, whether in Botswana or in Zimbabwe, South Africa, or Africa in general?
The lack of working together. Africans, we grew up knowing that back in the days, our grandparents, our mothers back then, they worked as a community. They shared resources. They were able to collectively build something that is meaningful. We even know that our university in Botswana was built from the collectiveness of Botswana who contributed their resources to building this institution. If we can come back with the same culture of collectiveness, shying away from a mentality of individualism, we can all work together, coming up with cooperatives that are full in effect. That way we can be able to synchronize copying patterns. That way we can be able to challenge access to market, because we know we are coming together. Dr. Mutoko, if you're growing a tomato alone, you cannot go and fight a retailer in terms of prices. If it's you, me, neighbors, like if we come as a collective and go and sit down with a certain supermarket and say, hey, you are giving us unfair prices for the tomatoes. We want to be selling our tomatoes at such and such an amount. They will listen because you're coming as a collective. But if you're coming alone, it's gonna be very hard for you to be able to advocate for favorable prices for farmers, because they can easily get that product somewhere else for a cheaper price from someone who's not complaining. So if we were trying to complain, not really complain, but advocating for fairness in the market, we should do it as a collective. Build associations which are effective, have a common ground. Build cooperatives which you can be able to share resources and not cry out to the government to fund you for something. We can be able to fund each other by crowdfunding resources or ways that are in relation to mobilizing resources. If you have land, I have a car, someone else has a better understanding with the market, someone is good with finance, you know, all of those skills and attributes and resources collectively can be able to boost the food security of Botswana and Sub-Saharan Africa as a whole.
Wow. Guess what, Pearl? I'm just loving this interview. I'm just loving the interview. Can we extend it for the next 2 days? We just continue nonstop. You know what?
Yeah.
You being somebody who is actually in the forefront of agriculture in Botswana, a young farmer, a young Botswana, one would have expected you probably to say, you know, I'm the guy, I'm the one who is, but you're actually saying, guys, let's work together. Let's work together. That's so amazing. I just love, I don't know, I think I'm just blown away, let me say. By the way you are saying things and the things you are saying, I'm so happy. And I'm hoping that our people will be able to derive a lot of lessons from this. Right, let me read for you some chats. Right, Pearl, are you there? Right, let me see if Pearl is still available. Pearl? Pearl? Unfortunately, it looks like we have lost Pearl here. She has done an amazing job. There were some questions to be answered. Rodney asked how important it is to get a business qualification in order to run a successful farming business. Or are there any other ways to acquire agriculture business knowledge without enrolling into courses? Beautiful. Rodney, while we are waiting for Pearl to come back, I hope she'll be able to come back. She had load shedding, and I'm not sure whether she'll be able to come back, but I will do my bit to answer this one. Is that fine, Rodney? Pearl, are you back? All right, so let me give my beat. This is what I think. You don't necessarily need to have, you know, a business degree for you to run a business, right? But if it is possible for you to get that degree, it will give you an advantage. What I have seen to be most important is to go for those short courses. Let's say you are going into pig farming. You need to enroll for pig farming courses. Even if it's 2 months, it's 3 months, it's 6 months, get ongoing education. As we heard from Pearl, Pearl started, she graduated with an honors degree in business enterprise, right? But from there, she didn't look for a job. She decided to go into farming, and she's running her business very well. And you can see she's reading magazines, she reads blogs, She networks a lot with people from different countries. And so there are many ways of us empowering ourselves so that we can know more about the particular area. Let me tell you something. You could actually have an MBA, Master of Business Administration. You can even have a PhD. That's a very good thing to do. But as long as you remain theoretical and you don't seek the specific information, because remember, for example, you do an MBA, okay? It's a very good thing. It helps you in the managerial and the administrative aspects of the business. But if you are into goat farming or you are into maize production and so on, in MBA, you don't do anything to do with maize. You don't learn about pigs. So you need specific industry knowledge, which you can get from short courses, which you can get from mentors and coaches who are experienced in the area. Some mentors, some coaches will do it for free. Some of them will charge you. You need to be willing to get such people. Another way, obviously, is to hire people who are experts in the area, and you put them there to work for you. You will be there being the CEO, and you work with those people, whether you work together with them or you completely assign them to run. I hope that answers you, Rodney. Unfortunately, we would have wanted to hear the responses coming from Pearl. Another question is, hi Pearl, should I consider Tswana chicken breeding as a business idea to make money? Tswana chicken breeding as a business idea to make money. All right, so I'm gonna answer that one as well. Tswana chickens are very much in demand among our people. There was a time when I was actually considering, you know, going into Tswana chicken, and then I actually package them and sell. But one of the things that stopped me is that if you know Tswana chicken, you will realize that when you have slaughtered it, most of the time it becomes very small. It's delicious, it's very good, it's strong, but the quantity of the pieces that you need to put into a 2 kg, how much then will you sell it for? So to answer your question, yes, you can actually do Tswana chicken, but I will advise you do your market research. It will be very important for you to know from the market and to look at the cost and everything else. And remember also, Tswana chicken, they take longer. They take longer, yeah, than your broilers. Your broilers, in 6 weeks' time or so, you are already selling. Tswana chicken, how long do you take? So you have quite a lot of costs there. You need to vaccinate them. There was a time when I was keeping Tswana chicken in the backyard, and they got up to around 33, and then they grew up to 40. Hey, wait until a disease hits you. That's when you know that, oh my God, having Tswana chicken does not necessarily mean that you are free. We had to learn to vaccinate all the 33, you know, even when we had 40, when they were hit by a disease, we had to vaccinate them. So you need to be aware of that. I'm just trying, guys. I'm not an agriculture specialist. If there is anybody in our midst who also wants to respond to these questions, please help me. All right, there is another question which says, with regards to introduction of a new crop in Botswana, what's the best approach and ways to mitigate the risk? I don't have an answer for this one. I think I will forward some of these questions to Pearl so that she can respond to them. The main aim, maybe she will respond to them on her page. The main aim, or rather the bigger picture, is exporting, but I would like it to also penetrate the local market. Guys, let me say this. I think it will be very wise for some of these things to get people like Pearl to actually mentor you where possible. What lessons have you learned from COVID-19 in relation to farming? Yeah, let me just say I'll forward all these questions to her. I think I would answer them, but you know how it is. I'm not an expert in the area, so I wouldn't want to answer them half-baked. You say, I'm answered. Thank you very much, Doc. Indeed, industry knowledge is the key to a successful business. We should continuously learn the dynamics of our industry. Best interview. Oh, thank you so much, Rodney. Thank you very much. I didn't think that I was really answering you the way you expected on that. What lessons have you learned? Now that gives me courage to answer. What lessons have you learned from COVID-19 in relation to farming? From Litata Mane. Now, Litatawe, what COVID-19 has done is that it has taught us that we need to learn to rely on ourselves as a country without relying on others, because now there is minimization of things coming from other countries, and that has actually opened doors for our farmers. Some of my friend farmers right now, they are flooded with requests because all the supermarkets, mostly, they are relying on local farmers. So it has taught us that, you know what, in the middle of turmoil, in the middle of challenges, no matter what happens, farmers are needed. We need a farmer in the morning, we need a farmer in the afternoon, we need a farmer in the evening. Farming, I would say, is the best business. It's needed all the time. Guys, I want to appreciate you. I want to thank you for coming through tonight. I really, really, really appreciate you. When you get a chance, please go through my YouTube channel, Dr. Wilbert R. Mutoko. And I hope to catch up with you later. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Goodbye for now.